Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Flipgrid Live event. I want to wish all of you a happy World Ocean Day. Yesterday, we celebrated this, so happy belated World Ocean Day. My name is Anne, and I work on Team Flipgrid. Today, we are joined by California State Parks. And before we get started, let me just say this. If you're not familiar with Flipgrid, we are a free video discussion platform by Microsoft. And we are on a mission to empower every person on the planet to share their voice and respect the diverse voices of others. And that's why we are so excited about today's event. Over 20 years ago, in 1999, California passed the Marine Life Protection Act, and this made portions of California's coast marine protected areas. And today, California State Parks guards those areas. In just a moment, we'll be joined by interpreter Erica, and she is going to share all of the ways we can be better stewards of taking care of the oceans. So without further ado, here's Erica. All right, Erica, go ahead and unmute. We can see you, but we want to be sure to hear you also. Hi. Not hearing you yet, Erica, but I think we're all so excited. Awesome. Friends, we'll get that connection set real quick, but I know we are so excited about this event. It's pretty cool to know that California State Parks.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can.
So sorry about that.
Excited.
Hi there, Anne. It's really good to see you. It's Erica here at Point Lobos State Natural Reserve with California State Parks. I am so sorry for that technology. We've got a really big setup happening here today. There's some work happening here behind me because we are getting scuba divers in the water that you're going to be joining in just a few minutes in the second half of our program. All right, so we are just getting our equipment out, but yeah, we are not only here in a state park, but behind me is the Point Lobos State Marine Reserve, or a marine protected area. It is the oldest marine protected area, not only here in California, but across the United States. And I bet you, no matter where you live on planet Earth, there's probably areas that are protected in your country or your state as well, whether they're state parks, national parks, or marine protected areas. So we are going to be joining and doing a couple different things today. We're going to head up to the northern coast of California to meet with my friend Kat at McCarraker State Park. She's going to teach us a little bit more about marine protected areas in our ocean. And then we're going to come back here to Point Lobos and we'll get in the water with the scuba divers. I hope you all are ready. Are you stoked, Anne? I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh, I am super, super excited. So friends, I know we have some great things to learn. Erica, take it away.
All right, so we talked a little bit about marine protected areas, similar to how our national parks and state parks protect ecosystems and habitats on land. Our marine protected areas do similar things, but underwater. So you can think about marine protected areas, or what we call MPAs, as parks that are underwater. So they protect habitat, they protect the different animal species that live there. And in doing that, it allows those animals to grow and thrive. It allows the habitat to stay nice and healthy. And as it does, it allows the ocean to stay healthy as a whole. So here in California, we have 124 marine protected areas. They're designed as a network that go all the way down the California coast. It's pretty awesome. And they work together because they're like all these little safe zones that wildlife can grow and thrive in. And as their populations grow, they can spill out and move into areas where people can fish. And chances are, a couple of you who are watching, you probably like to eat seafood, right? So our MPAs help support our fisheries here in California as well. They're also really great places to recreate. Does anyone like to go to the beach? Maybe you live near the coastline, or maybe you get to go on vacation and visit the shorelines. Well, when you've got beautiful protected areas like this, there's wildlife you can watch. Actually, just this morning, we had both harbor seals, and southern sea otters swimming around here in the kelp forest behind me. It was really special. So our marine protected areas also provide a lot of places to recreate and have lots of fun. I'm going to hand it off, though. Let's roll on up the coast. We're going to go see my friend Kat, who is in McCarraker State Park on the Northern California coast.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Like my friend Erica said, my name is Kat, and today I'm talking to you live from McCarraker State Park, and I'm so excited to celebrate World Ocean Day with you. Today we have this amazing opportunity to celebrate and to share what we love about our global ocean. Now, you may notice that I'm saying ocean and global ocean rather than oceans, and that's on purpose, because all oceans are connected. The Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Arctic, Southern, it's all connected into one giant body of water that connects us all. Now, our ocean is absolutely teeming with life, from the very, very big, like this gray whale skeleton that I'm in front of today, all the way down to the very, very small, like microscopic photosynthesizing phytoplankton. That is a tongue twister. Now, let's take a moment to think. There's all kinds of life in our ocean. I wonder if you can think of your favorite ocean animal. I brought some friends with me to help here today. I wonder if your favorite is a sea turtle. Maybe it's that harbor seal that Erica mentioned was actually in the water behind them earlier. Maybe your favorite ocean animal is a bird, some kind of bird. Maybe your favorite ocean animals live in the tide pools. Call our tide pools home. Maybe we like fish or sharks, or there's all kinds of life. So much biodiversity in our ocean for us to appreciate. But the ocean's even more than that. It's more than just a home for plants and animals. Our ocean gives us life here on land. More than half oxygen on Earth actually comes from the ocean. So we can thank the ocean for every other breath we take. And, you know, today's a holiday, so let's go ahead and celebrate that. We're going to take 2 deep breaths. And on our second exhale, we are going to say, thank you, ocean. Okay, here we go. So first deep breath in, out. Okay, second breath in and out. And we say, thank you, ocean. We can thank our ocean for rain, regulating weather patterns, and for being a carbon sink, meaning that our ocean can capture excess carbon from the atmosphere, making it a buffer against the effects of climate change. We can thank our ocean for food, for jobs. A fun way to recreate. There's so much we can thank our ocean for. So today, as we're celebrating this global ocean that connects each and every one of us, well, we kind of have to ask ourselves a big question. How do we give back? What can we do to help this ocean that helps each and every one of us? Well, like Erica was mentioning, here at the California State Parks, a lot of our coastal parks are adjacent or right next to marine protected areas, MPA for short. And these wonderful spaces almost act like an underwater park, trying to keep this area of the ocean as natural as possible. So learning about these protected areas, and maybe after this program looking to see if you have a protected area near you, is a great way to help our ocean. We can also show support by reducing waste. A lot of trash accidentally ends up in the ocean and can make life difficult for all those plants and animals that call the ocean home. And we can reduce waste by using reusable items. We can recycle, and we can refuse single-use items because we already have our super cool reusable ones. Even if you are far from the shore, There's a saying that I think we all need to remember. So I'm going to say it once, and then I want you to repeat it with me. Take 3 for the sea. So we're going to say it together again. Take 3 for the sea. And what that means is that whether we are on a beach, maybe even in our own neighborhood, if we see litter on the ground, we're always going to remember to pick up at least 3 pieces so that a wind or a stream doesn't accidentally deliver that litter into the ocean. We can also help by reducing carbon emissions that are contributing to climate change. We can choose to walk, ride our bikes, carpool, take public transportation, other options besides driving our cars around. And this is going to help our ocean because, like we said before, the ocean is a carbon sink. It's helping buffer against the effects of climate change, but, well, it's working very hard, and it still needs a little bit of our help. And finally, if you have an opportunity to visit the shore, maybe even a marine protected area, we can help the ocean and all the wonderful life there by respecting the animal, by keeping in mind that we are visiting another animal's home. And so when we see wild animals, we are going to give them space and let them be. We're so lucky to be able to share this planet with amazing marine life. And these animals every day, not just World Ocean Day, deserve our respect and our protection. So today we're here to celebrate and to learn this beautiful ocean that connects each and every one of us. It provides so much to life here on land. It's home to amazing plants and animals. And that's why when we're respecting the ocean and we're caring for the ocean, in turn, we're respecting and caring for each other. So I want to thank you so much for being here to learn with me today. I know we're so excited to meet those divers live underwater, but I want to wrap up by saying happy World Ocean Day. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Erica.
Well, fantastic, Kat, and happy World Ocean Day to you too. It's been a lot of fun celebrating, and it's so amazing. We've got students joining us from all over the world right now. We've got India, Canada, Egypt, Kuwait, Croatia, Turkey, Italy, Ukraine, Tokyo, and then here in the United States, of course, we have students here in California, but Washington, Georgia, Virginia, Arizona, that's my home state, Florida, Oklahoma, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, New York, Colorado, North Carolina, Mississippi, Texas, Idaho, Alabama, and New Mexico. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We are so excited to be joining you to help you celebrate World Ocean Day wherever you are. We are getting ready to dive in with our scuba divers. So if you missed it earlier, I'm here at Point Lobos State Natural Reserve. It's a California state park on the central coast of California. We're on the west coast of the United States. And right here behind me, this is part of the Pacific Ocean, which of course is part of our global ocean, right? One ocean, one planet. We're all connected by this big, beautiful sea. And right behind me here is a marine protected area, or the Point Lobos State Marine Reserve. This area has been protected since 1960. And in it, you might see, do you see that texture on the surface of the water? That is the canopy of a giant kelp forest. And we are getting ready to dive in and learn more about the kelp. So in just a minute here, we are going to be joining our scuba divers underwater. Team, are our scuba divers ready? Let's see if
we're ready whenever you need us to be.
I hear them, you guys. Are you ready to connect with our scuba divers? There they are. We've got Patrick from Monterey Bay Aquarium and Angie from California State Parks. You two, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? You are live on our Flipgrid Live event.
So awesome. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on the day after World Ocean Day. Hope you had a really happy one there yesterday celebrating our global ocean. My name is Patrick. I work for the Monterey Bay Aquarium social media team. So when I'm not here underwater, and Instagrams, make sure the folks can connect with what's going on in the ocean. And I'm joined by the fearless and intrepid Angie. Angie, how are you doing today?
My name is Angie Edmonds, and I'm an interpreter for California State Parks. And I'm so excited to have you all here to learn a bit about the giant kelp forest from Pat and I, and this amazing partnership between the Monterey Bay Aquarium and State Parks. If you didn't already know, this place where we're standing, or sitting, swimming, floating, is a marine protected area that's right next to a California State Park. So we have so many layers of protection here. And we're really excited to show you all the different life that calls this place its home.
Probably the best office that we could possibly have here in a wild kelp forest here along the Central California coast. It's so great to see all of you folks here joining in from all around the world. Just heard the list from everywhere. Thank you so much for tuning in and all those different time zones and places and being here with us live and underwater.
All right, well, let's transition over this way, Pat. Unless, Erica, did you want to start with some questions, or should we chat a little bit first?
No, we're going to go ahead and let's just have a look at the kelp forest and some of the wildlife you're seeing down there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see right next to me, this is a perfect example of really the star of the show here. So this is our giant kelp. And I just want to give you a moment to maybe scan this organism, Pat, so they can get a closer look. We can see some of these little circular pieces here. These are called Mpas, which are filled with gas, or basically they're hollow on the inside, so that this is helping our kelp organism float up towards the surface, because of course kelp needs the sunlight to create energy. So this is helping our kelp go all the way up towards the sun, where it starts to kind of lay flat on the surface of the ocean from the surface with Erica, so that it can grab some of that sun's energy. These darker bits right here are called blaze, which are helping to capture some of that sun's energy. And Pat, let's go ahead and show them the hold fast. Let's go to our favorite hold fast just over here. It's an intricate system that's kind of keeping our kelp anchored onto the sea floor. Look at that, and I bet you can all make some comparison of the giant kelp, maybe some plants that you might be familiar with on land as well. So kelp is not exactly a plant, but it does have some similarities to our plants.
That's right. What we're looking at here is really pretty incredible adaptations here that the kelp have for living in this rough and tumble coastline. You can see right here just how many different fingers are crawling out of the kelp to latch on to the rock, because unlike a tree on land with its roots that anchor it into the soil, the roots of a tree, they're also grabbing nutrients from what's going on underground in the soil. But these root-looking parts here of the holdfast, they don't really have too much to do with grabbing nutrition. It's really all to help withstand the power of the ocean. So as I push back away, now you can kind of see the playing field that we're in here with Angie, where all around we have this rocky reef. We've got a sea star hanging out over here, but if I pan behind us, you can see just how dark it gets, and that's because of the giant kelp going up to the surface. You can kind of see there the sun shining through the kelp canopy there, giving us what us photographers just love to see, is that those rays of light coming down underneath the canopy. Well, if you look out here in front of us, you can see just how dark it is there with the canopy, and that's the kelp that's eating up the sun. And it really affects what goes on down here in the darkness, what kind of animals can live there. And over here where it's bright and sunny, this is an area that gets swept a little bit stronger with some waves. And also our bubbles we've been blowing have been clearing out a little bit of the canopy. That's why it's nice and bright over here. But behind us, just back here, if I turn the selfie around, you can see back there just how dark it gets with the kelp eating all of that sun. One of the most productive organisms on the planet, growing over 30 centimeters a day in certain places. So really incredible stuff, this giant kelp.
Amazing. Yeah, so it's kind of like a roof over our heads right now while we're underwater. And the really special thing about this particular place, Point Lobos, is that, like I said, it's both a state park and we are swimming in a marine protected area. And a marine protected area is a place where we either limit or restrict human consumption or humans from taking things out of the marine environment, whether that's fish or shells or rocks or even kelp. And this is the oldest marine protected area in the United States and in California. And so this MPA particularly gives us a window into the future of what a healthy, balanced, and well cared for ocean can look like, with lots of three-dimensional structure from the kelp and the reef, which provides amazing habitat for so many animals that call this place home. So that's a really special, just like our parks are great places to explore, to go hiking, to go camping, to go wildlife viewing. Our MPAs provide that protection as well and create great recreational opportunities like scuba diving and kayaking, and lots of other opportunities to learn and explore as well.
That's right, yeah. And one of the things about the Monterey Bay Aquarium in connection with marine protected areas like we have out here along the coast is that the aquarium is sort of a visitor center to our aquatic national parks and state parks that are underneath the waves here. One of the things about the aquarium is that we've been open for over 36 years, and we have some animals at the aquarium that have been there that whole time. Some sea urchins, some rockfish have been there, and they're huge, they're big, and they're not the same size as the fish that are used to seeing out here along the coast that were fished out. But here at Point Lobos, the animals, the kelp, they're all supersized. They're the size that they really tend to be in most places. And so as I pan around, you'll see a lot of understory kelp organisms just like this one here, which doesn't seem like a whole lot when we consider the giant kelp, but this Paragophora that's right here, this algae that I'm next to, that's a substantially tall bit of algae that is not found in too many other places. And if I pan over here to where Angie is and down over here, you can see we've got a big giant spine star that's hanging out. These are organisms that suffered a lot the last few years with the disease that went through their population. And here at Point Lobos and other places, these populations are doing okay now, and this is certainly the environment where they can recuperate in because it's so protected. And just looking all around us here, you can see just how lush the rocks are, how covered in life they are. That's the role of marine protected areas. That's part of what the aquarium tries to show everybody if you can't come scuba diving here.
Wow, guys, that is so amazing. It is so cool to see a lush, vibrant, and thriving kelp forest right here in Point Lobos on the California coast. Now, divers, we have reached the part of our program where it is time for the students to take a selfie with you. So if you can flip the camera around, let's get both of you in our frame. We've got both Pat and Angie. Remember, Angie is from California State Parks. Patrick is with Monterey Bay Aquarium. They are here in Point Lobos. Go ahead, students. It is time to take your selfie with our divers. Divers, could we get a little maybe okay symbol or a hang 10 or a wave with your hands so that our students can take a good shot with you? Awesome. Very good. Thanks so much, divers.
This is so cool. While you all are smiling for those selfies, I want to let the folks who are tuning in know we would love to see your selfies with our underwater friends. So gather in front of your screens in your classroom at home and be sure to snap a photo and share that on Twitter with us. You can tag at Flipgrid and definitely tag our friends at CA State Parks. So it's so cool to see those divers. We definitely want to celebrate. So smile, say cheese, say underwater selfie, and be sure to tag CA State Parks and Flipgrid. I love seeing them underwater. That is so cool. Erica, are you there? We have been getting a ton of questions about World Ocean Day, and that's great because today's Flipgrid topic of the day is called Protect What You Love, the Ocean. And we're going to show that in just a moment. But before we do, Erica, can you let us know what to expect when our friends tuning in use the topics on California State Parks Discovery Library page?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Discovery Library page, we have hundreds of topics for your students, and not only about the ocean and the coastline and our marine protected areas, but we also have topics that talk about history and science and culture. There's so much to learn about California and our planet through California State Parks Flipgrid topics. So definitely have a browse. We've got a lot of really great stuff, but my favorite are definitely the ones that are for the ocean, right?
Oh my gosh, so cool. Yes. And seeing that kelp forest is so incredible. I want to take a moment and let all the folks who are tuning in know how easy it is to find the topic of the day and your California State Parks topic so that they can have their learning community reflect on what they have experienced in today's live event. So friends, this is as easy as going to your web browser and typing in aka.ms/oceansday. And this will take you right to California State Parks Discovery Library page with all of the incredible content that Erica just told you about. So once you're there, we have this filter to go right down to this topic of the day, protect what you love, the ocean. And you can click right into it and see incredible questions and a learning prompt that your students can respond to. But in order to use this, all you have to do is click on that blue button that says Add Topic. And once you do that, you can determine how you want to use your topic as an individual topic or simply add it to your Flipgrid group. And think of your group as your classroom. Friends, you'll be able to edit this topic if needed and customize it to your classroom or learning community. And of course, then the fun begins. Your students will reflect on their learning, answer those questions, and submit their own Flipgrid response. And of course, they can use all of those creative elements inside the Flipgrid camera. So definitely check out this topic, protect what you love, the ocean, and use it right after this event and have your students reflect on what they've learned. So Erica, let's go back to you. Are you there?
Yeah, we're still here at Point Lobos, and I know that we are getting a lot of student questions for the scuba divers. Are we ready to kick off that portion of the event?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and dig in. We have a question that came from Nia Mondo, and she's curious about how deep into the ocean humans have traveled.
The question is how deep into the ocean what has traveled? Sorry.
So how deep into the ocean have humans traveled is the question.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Well, where we are right now with Angie, we're about 15 feet deep, which doesn't seem very far. 15 feet, I believe that's about 4.5, maybe 5 meters or so. So that's not very far down in terms of, the grand scheme of the ocean, but it's pretty substantial to be down this far for your body because the pressure in the ocean goes up by 1 atmosphere once you make it down 10 meters. So if you're at half of that, you already have a lot of pressure. So Angie and I can really feel that on our ears, and our bodies are reacting to that. Humans have been down all the way to the bottom of the ocean in the Mariana Trench out there, the Challenger Deep. I forget exactly the depth of that. That's the deepest portion of the ocean, though. But there's only been 2 or 3 people that have made it down that far. Fewer people have been to the bottom of the ocean than people have walked on the moon. And that's something to think about because the ocean, everything that we're doing here with Angie, this is all very complex stuff. You can see all of the gloves we have to wear, the mask we have to have on. We've got cables, we've got cameras and lights, so many things just to be able to talk to you folks around the world. It takes a whole big team of people to make this happen. Incredibly complex. Once you add a little bit of water to the equation, you can go even further into space much easier than you can do what we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add on to that, I believe the deepest part of the ocean is about 36,000 feet. So that's much deeper than we are. And if you were going to go explore that part of the ocean, you wouldn't be able to use the type of gear that Pat and I are using today. You would need to use some specialized robots or submarines or maybe even a remotely operated vehicle which is sort of like a drone, but it's built for being underwater. So there are many different types of people who are exploring all parts of the ocean. And a lot of times when you go down to very deep parts of the ocean, you're likely to discover new animals that we didn't even know existed before. So that's a really cool part about deep exploration. Great question.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Well, we do have a student named Brooke who is curious about how you keep people out of those protected areas.
I'll take this one, Pat. I believe the question was, how do we keep people out of the MPAs?
Correct.
Great question, Brooke. I'm so glad that you asked that. And the answer is that we don't. So marine protected areas are places where humans are welcome to come and visit and explore and do all types of fun things like scuba diving, kayaking, swimming, snorkeling, maybe even driving a little ROV, one of those underwater drones. So many ways to recreate in the ocean, right? They're just places where when we ask when people come visit them, that they don't take anything with them when they come. So maybe when you go to the beach, you like to collect shells or cool rocks. And I like to do that too sometimes. But when we're in an MPA, we just ask that everybody leaves everything where it is. So humans are more than welcome to do what we're doing today, scuba diving, swimming, exploring. But we just ask everybody to leave the animals alone, kind of let them go about their business, and we just kind of observe them and respect their presence in these places. So actually, MPAs are incredible places to recreate and to play. So I encourage you, if you live near marine protected areas, to go play in your MPA. Just please leave the animals and the underwater life where it is.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Just to add on to it as well, one of the things that we often think is to help the ocean, we need to remove the people from it. And that's really not the case. What we need to do is change our relationship with what's happening in the ocean, because people have been living along this coastline for tens of thousands of years. We have the Ohlone, Estlin, and Rumsen, also known as Costanoan to some people, that have lived here along this coastline for thousands of years in relationship with the natural environment. And where we end up having these issues, why we need to have marine protected areas and these different areas left alone, as it were, is because our relationship of taking resources from the ocean and bringing them out to the rest of the world beyond what they can sustain. That's really the source of why we need these protected areas, why we have the Monterey Bay Aquarium, California State Parks here to help inspire conservation of the ocean, because ultimately we all love the environment. We don't want to do something bad mostly, and people have been a part of this environment for the entire time that people have been along this coastline. And so it's really our relationship with what's happening in the ocean that needs to be adjusted, and it's all about building empathy for the giant kelp behind us, the sea stars, the coral and algae, building that empathy so that we can live in community with what's going on our planet. So like you said, these marine protected areas aren't about taking people out of them. It's about shifting how we're relating to what's in those areas.
Well, that is so awesome to hear, Pat. And we do feel really privileged to get underwater here and explore this MPA. Now, we've been talking a lot about big concepts and this habitat, but why don't we have a look at a couple of the residents? Are there any animals that we can say hello to today?
Let's do it. Yeah, Angie, we previewed a little bit of our sea star friend here. Should we say hello again?
How cool. This right here is a giant spine star, and it is giant. I mean, I'll put my hand next to it so you can see how big it is. It has really amazing colors. We have some light baby blue, some vibrant purple, and some green. And this is a really epic thing to be able to see right here. We swam up to this rock and it was just hanging out right here for us to show to you. How special is that?
This is really an awesome animal of the Kelp Forest, sort of like a wolf or a lion that crawls around very slowly and goes after animals that are usually not moving too fast themselves. This will eat crabs or snails, other barnacles it can get itself on top of here. on the rock, and all around us are a bunch of other sea stars. These are a very plentiful group of animals in our area in terms of species. Down here, we have some bat stars, 2 of them hanging out, one right here and another one right here. And these ones are sort of the janitors going around and mopping up the floor, cleaning everything up. They'll take their stomach out of their mouth and put it on a rock, and they'll make a little soup of whatever's there on the rock and slurp it up into their belly. I don't know if you kids out there want to try this at home, but you can think about taking your stomach out of your mouth, putting it on the plate where the sandwich is, and then you wait a little bit, and then you swallow your stomach back in, and the sandwich is gone, the plate is clean. That's how a bat star is feeding over there.
How cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to try that at Thanksgiving. It might leave a few impressions, but... And then down over here, Angie, we had another a echinoderm friend right over here. This right here is a sea cucumber. And let me see if I can just adjust the camera settings real quick, make it a little bit brighter so you can see. There we go. So this sea cucumber, its mouth is right over here, and it's walking around using its mouth parts to mop up little bits of food there. And then at the tail end of the sea cucumber is where the waste will come out. You might be familiar, but the sea cucumber also doesn't breathe from its mouth part. It actually breathes from its rear end down there. So sea cucumbers, they have a mouth and they have a butt, and they do not breathe through their mouth. Just figured we'd share that with everybody out there as well.
Yeah, one other fun fact about the sea cucumber that I really like is that when they feel threatened, they can do something very bizarre, which is actually inject their internal organs outside of their body, sort of like a sacrifice to their predators so they can be distracted. So our sea cucumber can kind of scurry away and hide, and they can actually regrow those parts of their body that they sacrifice to their predator. So they have a lot of fun and wacky things about them.
That's fascinating.
Did we have another question coming in?
Yeah, divers, we have lots of questions coming in, and students are so curious. How long can you stay underwater?
Oh, it's an excellent question. It really depends on a few things. When it's really cold, it's harder to stay down underwater because you start not being able to move around as much and really enjoy your time. But on our backs here, I don't know, Angie, I can show your tank. That's all of Angie's air right there. So when we're out of air, or before we're out of air, it's time to come back up to the surface. So typically for me, my lungs work maybe a little bit differently than Angie's. Each person is different, so I tend to go through air a little bit faster. And so I can spend about an hour or so on a dive when we're talking like this, maybe a little bit shorter because we're spending so much time. Angie, what's the longest dive you've done?
I think my longest dive is probably in a kelp forest. I would say probably about an hour, maybe a little more than an hour.
Yeah, so but if we were to go down into the tropics, if we were diving somewhere tropical in a coral reef, that could maybe go to 2 hours because we're not using as much oxygen to keep ourselves warm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh
good question.
So what I'm saying is really that the limiting factor for us on a scuba dive is usually how warm we are and how much air we have. But there's also a lot of other factors that contribute to how long we can stay underwater, including that we're breathing air on our back. So many people think that our tanks are full of oxygen, but they do contain air, which contains nitrogen. And sometimes if you're on a dive, maybe that's a lot deeper than we are, your body is taking in those different gases in different concentrations than you do at the surface. And those can create kind of complications if you were to stay down too long. So there's a lot of physics that goes into scuba diving that everybody who knows how to scuba dive has to learn about. So if you're interested in physics or scuba diving, this is a really fun way to kind of put that into practice. So check out some of that stuff if you ever want to go scuba diving.
That's right, yeah, to the point of how deep we can go in the ocean. The deeper you go, you can't stay down very long, you start having issues with your body. So yet another limitation to trying to do anything underwater. The cold, the air, the depth, the water itself with the electronics. It's an incredible challenge to be able to come here underwater to all of you folks. So really appreciate you tuning in to all the work that comes in to just being able to speak to you from underwater. It's a whole lot going on without even realizing it.
Well, it's very cool for us to be able to talk with you. We have lots more questions. Mrs. Gorofsky's class in Kenmore, New York is curious, what happens if there is no kelp?
Oh, that is an excellent question. And Angie, I don't know if you want to tackle that because in your part of California, there's a lack of kelp. And the question is, what happens if there's not kelp around? What kind of effects does that have on the ocean?
Great question. So one thing you can notice just by looking at the kelp, and I said this a little bit before, is that our kelp habitat creates basically a three-dimensional structure underwater. Sometimes I say it's kind of like an apartment building because down in the holdback, the kind of root of the kelp that we showed you before, there's lots of spaces and compartments for small invertebrates to live and to grow. And all along the kelp, you can even see there's some little snails hanging onto our kelp. Oftentimes we'll see fish in the kelp, and we have sea otters and other amazing animals that seek shelter in the kelp as well. So it provides an incredible, again, three-dimensional habitat where animals can hide from predators, maybe lay their eggs, and raise their young, right? So raise their babies. So when we take kelp out of the equation, we have less three-dimensional habitat. Sometimes in some places in the world, there's something else that provides habitat. Maybe it's big rocky structures underwater. Maybe even it's like a shipwreck, right? So creating that three-dimensional structure. But up where I live, we're starting to have an imbalance in the ocean. And that is because we're losing our kelp, partly because we have an overgrowth of something called urchin. Now, I wonder if anybody out there has ever seen or heard of an urchin before. It's sort of a round animal with lots of spikes on it. And they are voracious vegetarians. They love to eat kelp. And they are eating up a whole lot of kelp, much of which has also been impacted by a changing ocean, so warming ocean conditions. So a lot of those things are working together and decreasing our kelp. And as a result, a lot of other animals that eat kelp are suffering as well. So it's kind of a complex situation. But again, it mostly comes down to that three-dimensional habitat structure that so many animals rely on. That's so important for us to help protect. And again, bring it back to the marine protected area. Because this place has been protected for so long, we have a thriving three-dimensional apartment building stadium down here where lots of animals can raise their young, find food, and seek shelter.
That's right. Yeah, you can think about what Angie was just saying is like, imagine what happens if there's no more homes for people to live in. What does that end up causing? So you folks out there may be familiar with what happens when there's suddenly nowhere to live. And that's what's happening for a lot of animals out here along the coast with the kelp going away. The other thing too is that the kelp is deeply connected to lots of other habitats. You've got shorebirds and birds that are migrating that fly down the coast. They stop off at areas where there's kelp that's washed up on the beach. Lots of flies and other things that are eating the kelp. That becomes their meal on their migration. So imagine if you're on a long drive or on a long plane ride and you land and suddenly there's no more sandwich shop for you to grab a spot to eat on your way. That has rippling consequences as well. And the kelp that gets pulled out might go out into the deep sea or out into the open ocean and become food or a habitat for other animals. So imagine if, you order something online and then it just never shows up to your door and you really needed that to happen to bring that over to you. Those are all the connections that end up happening with the kelp going away. And so these sea stars, everything around us, this coral and algae, all of this around us is being fed in part by what the kelp is doing, and certainly being affected by what the kelp is doing. And if you get rid of it, it's a completely different environment. And that's something we've seen on the North Coast And here in California, in Central California, I should say, we're very fortunate to have our sea otters and other players here in the kelp that are doing their part to make sure we still have these pockets of kelp to help it regrow in other places.
Yeah,
Great
and
question.
you just mentioned the other question, and you sort of addressed it as the important role kelp plays in the marine food web and some of those other animals. We're getting questions about how long it takes for kelp to grow and how long can giant kelp grow?
Good question. Angie, you want to take that? How fast kelp grows, how big it gets?
Yeah, absolutely. So kelp grows at different speeds depending on the environment, right? So you can probably see that the water here isn't perfectly clear. It looks a lot different than maybe you've seen in a swimming pool, for example. So there's lots of little plankton floating around in the water, which limits how much sunlight our kelp can access. So in certain conditions, in ideal conditions, our kelp can grow easily over 100 feet tall, and generally down to about 70 feet. So what do you think happens to the extra 30 or more feet of kelp once it reaches the surface? Right, again, it creates that canopy, that sort of roof over the heads of our divers today. And it can grow very fast. It's actually the fastest growing photosynthetic organism. Is that right, Pat?
Yep, it's the second fastest after bamboo. Bamboo has a speed for some reason, but don't worry, bamboo, we're coming for you. Kelp is still on the way.
Well, fastest growing marine algae.
Yeah.
In the whole world. So it can grow, I think you said 60 centimeters, right? So
yep.
I've heard 1 to 2 feet in a day in ideal conditions. So imagine if you could grow 1 to 2 feet in a single day. It takes us years to grow that much. So it is very fast growing and it is very tall.
That's right, yeah. And at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, we have a kelp forest exhibit, and our kelp grows just about this much every single day, which ends up being a problem for our exhibit if we just let it go. So every so often, divers like myself will go in and we'll actually trim the kelp, give it a little haircut to make sure that it doesn't crowd out the whole exhibit. That's how fast it grows, even in an aquarium setting.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, divers, this is fascinating. We do have some more questions. We have a friend, Emmanuel, who's curious, what's the smallest fish in that area?
The smallest fish in the area? That's a good question, Emmanuel. Angie, I saw a very tiny sculpin a little bit earlier, but some of the smallest fish that we have around here are little baby rockfish that will come into the kelp forest. There's lots of baby fish that are out there, usually on the ocean currents far away from shore. But the smallest adult fish, that's a very good question. Some kind of a sculpin, I imagine.
Yeah, probably. We do have lots of small fish off the coast of California, but I like that you brought up rockfish because I did see some of them here yesterday. They're probably about this big. I don't know. Have you seen any smaller than about an inch?
Yeah, I know it's hard because some of them are very small as babies and you see them in the kelp forest and then they become massive and don't live in the kelp forest anymore. Some of the smallest, some of the biggest fish, start off incredibly small. For example, you might not think of a mola mola or ocean sunfish if you folks haven't heard about that before. Here, Angie, if you hold the camera real quick, this is what a mola mola swims like. If you've ever seen one, it's kind of funny. It goes back and forth with its little fins there. And so a mola mola, when they start off, they're 2 millimeters across, incredibly tiny, and they're out in the open ocean near Hawaii. And then some of those adults will end up growing up and they'll be massive. They'll be 4 meters across and weigh 2 tons. And then they come here along the coast into the kelp forest even to get cleaned by little fishes we have here called senoritas. So yeah, small to large, the kelp forest does it all.
Yeah, and I will just add that there's a lot of small fish in the kelp forest because, like I mentioned before, this is like a nursery, right? So it's common to not only see the smallest fish, but also the biggest fish because some of those fish have a pretty small home range, which means it's like they never leave their neighborhood. And in an MPA where their biggest predator, us humans, aren't allowed to hunt or fish, they're more likely to grow and survive longer and longer, which in turn lets them have more babies every single year. So it's kind of like a positive feedback loop.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, divers, we have a question from Miss Goldman's class. Jacqueline is curious about sharks in the area, and another listener, Brielle, is curious if you've ever come in contact with dangerous animals while you're down there.
Oh, it's a good question. Thank you. Which one do you want to take, Angie? The animal encounters or the sharks?
I'll take the animal encounters.
All right.
And I think some of you will probably laugh at this. But one of the most dangerous animals I've encountered in the Kelp Forest is a sea urchin. So you may have noticed that Pat and I are kind of swaying back and forth underwater. So if you've ever seen waves on a beach, you know what they look like from the surface, but now you have a sense of what it feels like to be underwater as that water power is moving over us. So we're kind of swaying back and forth. And as a scuba diver, sometimes that power is so strong that it might push you into an urchin's habitat. You might get a little spine in your knee, which are a little bit painful. They're not too bad, but sometimes you have to do special things to get those out. So I would say those are some of the most commonly dangerous animals that I encounter when I'm on a scuba dive in this habitat.
That's right. Yeah, it's always the animal that you least expect. You know, the little pokey pincushion of a sea urchin will get you much sooner than some of the animals you may have heard about in the news. And in particular, with the sharks, there are sharks here that live here in the Kelp Forest, but the vast majority of shark species are of no threat to people whatsoever. They don't have big enough mouths, and they're certainly not interested in biting onto something that has this big of a bubbly personality. So here we have leopard sharks, whale sharks that are very commonly seen, or you can see traces of them in the Kelp Forest, especially with the swell sharks where they lay their eggs. But we also have great white sharks that live here along the coast of California. Every so often a diver at Point Lobos might see one out very far away from here, down much deeper off of the canyons here, but those are seen every so often. But our white sharks, all of the research shows that they're just here to get fat, eating elephant seals and other sea lions and things that they can nab, and then they get nice and fatty in their liver, and then they swim from here all the way out to Hawaii and back. So they're really just here to get bulked up before they head out. And folks like Angie and I, we just don't have enough blubber. We're faking it with all this neoprene here. So we have very discerning local top predators in our white sharks, and so no problem seeing them. In fact, you can see white sharks here pretty frequently. If you are ever on a whale watching boat, you'll see the little babies north of here near Santa Cruz. Very, very cool thing. If you're ever in the area, hop on a whale watch boat, you might get to see some white sharks as well.
Hey, Pat, it looks like we just got visited by a crab over here. It's pretty big. If we want to give our students a look,
Where's our,
around here so you can find
where's
them.
our crab?
Right
Oh, goodness gracious. We've got a big old crab.
Wow, so cool.
Oh man, I'm really bad at identifying whether we've got a red rock crab or the other type of rock crab that we have here in the area.
We've got 9 spines.
9 spines, what does that mean?
I don't know.
That would be identifiable. We've got a couple of species of crab here locally. Let me see if I can adjust my camera.
You want me to, I can move over a little bit for you.
So we've just discovered a big crab here. It might be a little bit hard to see, but it's this one right here next to the kelp. Very substantial crab. This is, oh, there you go. Thank you, Angie. This right here is sea otter food right here. This is a delicious morsel for a local sea otter. And it looks, Angie, I don't know if you can tell from your angle, looks, oh, there we go. Looks like the crab was maybe nibbling on some of that kelp and not too interested in being streamed live to the world there. A little bit of an introvertebrate moment. Crab walking up there.
Patrick and Angie, we cannot say thank you enough for sharing your expertise with the world today. I wanted to ask if you have any final thoughts you want to share with those who are watching.
Sure, Angie, you or me first?
You go for it.
Well, one thing I just want to say is thank you so much to everybody who's tuning in right now for watching us. The technology to be able to do this has not always been around. It's very, very recent that we've been able to come live to you underwater like this over Flipgrid to all of you folks out there around the world. This is all pretty new stuff, and it takes a huge team to do it. I just want to keep everybody out there thinking about what can you do? What are you excited about doing? What piece of technology do you wish existed for us to be able to bring more of the underwater world? Because even 5 years ago, what we're doing right now was even more complicated than it is today. And I just want to say shout out to everybody out there working on these technologies for communication to connect the world so we can share these resources that we share with our global ocean directly to everybody wherever you happen to be in the world. So thank you to everybody who's been working on these technologies for such a long time. It's really inspiring to see how far they've come.
Absolutely, great answer. I'll reposition myself and just say I'm so glad that we all got to spend this special World Ocean Day together, celebrating the Pacific Ocean, celebrating our global ocean and our giant kelp. And no matter where you live, I know we have students tuning in from all over the world, but no matter where you live, whether you're on the coast or not anywhere near the ocean is what connects us all, and we all rely on the ocean for our survival. So we have a lot to be thankful for when it comes to this big blue sea. And if this program made you want to visit the ocean, but maybe it's a little far away right now, just know that someday you'll get reunited or time united with this incredible blue planet and this thing that connects us all. So I hope you all feel inspired to both explore and protect our blue planet. And we can't wait to see you sometime underwater, and happy World Ocean Day.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Today has been so special, and to the entire California State Parks team, our friends underwater, we are so glad we got to spend this time learning with you and all the folks tuning in from around the world. Thank you for helping us celebrate World Ocean Day and learning more how to protect our ocean. I've loved spending this time with all of you. And remember, we are here every Wednesday. So please tune in next week for another live event. You can head to aka.ms/Flipgrid Live Events to register. And we hope to see you next week. Friends, be sure to check out California State Parks' Topic of the Day. It is live inside their Discovery Library page, and there's incredible resources from California State Parks on hundreds of topics. Finally, if any of you who are tuning in, educators, parents, friends, if you're curious about learning more on how to use Flipgrid in your community, I would love to invite you to join us for Flipgrid Live on June 28th. This is a free digital event where we are going to celebrate you and the amazing work you are doing, all while revealing some amazing new features coming to Flipgrid. So you can go to aka.ms/Flipgrid Live and register. We hope to see you there. Definitely we'll be sharing and learning and connecting with each other, and maybe share some surprises too. So save the date, June 28th. You are all invited. Friends around the world, thank you for joining us today. It has been so much fun, and we want to wish you all a happy World Ocean Day. Take care, stay safe. Bye.